A particularly cloudy, gray day was welcomed in this environment, even if the air was still blazing hot and the sand got between the spaces in his boots. One day without intense glare from the sun was welcome after 10 days of hiking. Oxus Rhetorius, a survivor on a world most foul, treads the desert land with his new weapons. Many days ago, he received a new set of weapons from the warp. A combat knife, a single frag grenade, and a bolt sniper rifle. He would have preferred something to replace his lost plasma pistol, a sidearm that he could use in quick succession before pulling out his knife, but after the enemy had gotten too close for his slow-firing rifle. But he'll take what he can get. Oxus had adorned himself in trophies that served in equal part as protection. On his right pauldron, he had the headpiece of a charger. It came from the sport charger he had killed about 10 days ago. On one leg, overlaying his cuirass, was the faceplate of a hive guard, while on the other cuirass was the layered back of a red warrior. Among these were various parts and pieces from other bugs on his armor. He treads northeast across the desert, a walking symbol of impending doom to all bugs that see him. However, he hasn't seen many bugs over the past few days. Any patrol he encountered didn't put up much a challenge, nor was it common for them to call in a tunnel breach anymore. Oxus wouldn't soon complain about the increase in certainty of his survival. Suddenly he began to hear the tapping of heavy, pointed legs hitting against the sand at high speeds towards him. He looks around, ready to shoot. He sees nothing. Curiously, this doesn't sound too familiar. No bug he'd killed so far sounded like this when it walked. Stranger yet, it doesn't sound like a patrol or any large gathering of bugs. He still can't see anything, until a creature appears out of thin air to his left, a bug he hadn't seen before. Multiple thin, serrated tongues whipped out from its mouth, shoving Oxus back and leaving scratches in his armor. At that moment another appeared, and slashed down at him with powerful mantis-like mandibles. The creature was strong enough to knock him to the ground and disarm him of his rifle. A third stalker approached as the other two loomed over him and began assaulting him non-stop. As one tried to slice into him with its mandibles, Oxus quickly grabbed it, pulling out his knife in quick succession to cut off its mandible. The stalker jumps away, giving Oxus room to roll over and stand up. The newest stalker tried to slash out at him with its tongues, but Oxus coiled the tongues around his arm and caught them. He proceeds to slice through, removing the creature's tongues. The last of the three approached and jammed its mandibles hard enough into his left pauldron that it got stuck there. This wasn't enough to pierce the armor, though, leaving Oxus unharmed for the time being. He proceeded to grab the stalker by the head and stab it in the thorax. In one swift motion, he rips the blade out from the side, obliterating the insect's body. The other two were gone, but Oxus could see a trail of blood. Using his helmet's auto-senses, he tried to see if he can spot the stalkers. No sign of them. Fine. He'll have to resort to tracking them the old-fashioned way. The trail of blood leads into a forest of sharp rock formations. In addition to the weapons he had received, he was equipped with another tool, a grapnel hook. As he enters the first layer of the labyrinth, he uses his grapnel to fling himself up to a point atop the rocks, one as high as possible, while still being shaped correctly to allow him to climb onto the rock. Once up high, he carefully scales across the rocks, occasionally leaping between them. Every now and again he looks down, scanning the area for the stalkers. These bugs, whatever they were, must be purged like all the others. He uses his grapnel hook to vault to the next rock over, where he stops and looks into the distance. A massive tower formation. It looks like the spore towers he's destroyed before, only it's not generating spores. Oxus does not care. He already knows it's trouble. He aims down the sights of his bolt sniper and fires at the body of the tower. Immediately upon contact, he watches a swarm of shapes erupt and fly out from the top of the tower. They appeared to be bugs with bat-like wings. Oxus sighs heavily, knowing he kicked the lictor's nest this time. Then he hears a scratching at the rocks beneath him. With a quick scan of his autosenses, he sees a stalker trying, with little success, to climb the rocks to reach him. No hesitation was required. Oxus exploded the stalker with one shot. It was at that moment that one of the flying bugs struck him in the left pauldron, delivering a hefty blow for a creature its size. Multiple more of these creatures, shriekers, struck him, causing him to fall off the rock into the labyrinth below. The shriekers flew over, unable to reach him in his fortified area. But the trouble didn't stop. Right ahead of him, a stalker revealed itself, then another. One was easily recognizable by its single mandible, but the other was a surprise. This must have been a completely new one. He quickly throws up his sniper rifle and blasts the new one. The one-handed stalker gets too close and tries to lash at him with its razor tongues. Oxus grabs the thing by the tongues, then yanks it upward, arcing the stalker over its head and slamming its body against the ground. Still holding on, Oxus finishes it by stomping it into a fine yellow paste. Oxus sharply lets out a hefty breath. He looks to the area the stalkers came from. That new one, it could only mean one thing. There were more. Somewhere around here is a place where stalkers gather. Oxus begins walking through the labyrinth in that direction. He makes a conscious choice to keep to the ground to avoid the shriekers up above. Oxus wanders the labyrinth cautiously until he meets a clearing. He stops and looks out, noticing the shrieker nest. Given the opportunity that's arisen, he kneels and aims, taking another shot at a weak point in the nest. He notices it begin to sway. Good. Then he gets whacked aside when another stalker jumps him. He scrambles to his feet and whacks the stalker in the head with his gun, then shoots it at point blank, instantly killing it. At the moment of its death, another stalker reveals itself and strikes Oxus. Then it uses its tongues to wrap around his weapon and yank it out of its hands. Oxus wastes no time arming himself with his combat knife and attacking it. Just as he raises his weapon into the air, the stalker stabs him in a vulnerable space beneath his pauldron. He cries out as his arm is forced to stop. Just as the sly creature brings down another bladed mandible, he catches it. He crushes its arm before a great cluster of shriekers fly by, scratching his armor with great impact. Luckily, some accidentally contacted the stalker, stumbling it as well. Once the barrage of pests had ended, Oxus stands up. He mutters. Just then, two more stalkers reveal themselves, as one uses its razor tongues to attempt to strike on Oxus. He uses his combat knife to slash them, cutting off some and damaging others. He quickly goes in to stab it in the chest, and twists. Before he could finish it, another stalker leaps on his back, jabbing at his body with its mandibles. Just as well, it wraps its tongues around his neck, choking him and pulling him away. The third stalker gangs up, jabbing at his abdomen. Meanwhile, the impaled one runs away as fast as its weak legs can carry it, disappearing with his knife still in its body. Oxus backs up into a nearby rock, smashing the stalker against it to free himself. He grabs hold of the stalker's mandibles, headbutting it so hard it rips off the bladed hands. He drops them and pumps his fists as if readying a pump-action shotgun in each hand. Left hook, left, right, uppercut. A simple fist beating took out the stalker. The last one stands itself up weakly. Oxus responds by charging it and smashing its head between the rock and his knee. Just then, Oxus looks out and sees not only the shrieker swarm returning for another round, but even more shriekers having joined them. He pulls out a frag grenade and watches the cloud of alien filth draw closer. He pulls the pin, letting the grenade cook off, then tosses it straight into the air at the right moment. He jumps and rolls out of the way soon enough that the shriekers don't reach him, but just late enough that they don't have a moment to redirect. The frag grenade falls and explodes in midair directly at the swarm's center. Dozens upon dozens of shriekers turned to ash in an instant. Few remained, but they were no issue now. Oxus picks up his sniper rifle and aims at the nest. One more shot, and it came crashing down to the earth. Finally. Oxus could still spot the shriekers drifting about the skies. He makes a mental note, but knows he should focus on the stalkers. He jogs forward back into the labyrinth. After some time, he figures it's safe to go high again and use his grapnel hook to bring himself atop the rocks. He sees a point in the distance where 3 trails of orange smoke snake into the sky. A bug hive. This made it clear to Oxus that he was going in the right direction. In time, he makes it close to the hive, where he sees one tunnel clearly from his vantage point. He aims and fires his shot at the exact moment a stalker pops out of the tunnel. The The bolt perforated the stalker, practically cutting it in half as the bullet forces it back into the tunnel and explodes. This is enough to collapse the tunnel, but he'd need to reposition in order to close the other 2 tunnels. He climbs down and jogs into the middle of the stalker's lair. He sees another tunnel, which he promptly closes with another shot. He makes his way over to the 3rd tunnel when a stalker climbs out of it, immediately turning invisible. Oxus fires at it quickly but barely misses the shot. He looks around, using his auto senses to attempt to seek it out. No signs. It must have run behind cover. Then he hears it running up behind him, but when he turns to look, it's clear it's not the same stalker. He knows because he does not need his auto senses to see it. It has a massive combat knife sticking out of its chest. Oxus fires, taking off the stalker's left arm. It uncloaks itself, then runs in to attack with its remaining mandible. He grabs it and rips its arm off. Then he tears out the knife, taking bits and pieces of the monster's innards with it. It's finally dead. With that, Oxus walks over calmly to the last tunnel and closes it with a shot of his sleeve. He reloads his weapon, knowing an empty mag makes an empty husk of men. As he walks away from the lair, back towards his destination, he spots a cluster of shriekers headed his way. He takes a shot at one. With a direct hit, one shrieker is blown to bits. The ensuing explosion kills another, hurts a third, and functionally kills one by tearing apart its wings, causing it to fall. Oxus then gives a once-over to his immediate area. Nothing around. Then he takes aim, killing another 2 with 1 shot. Another quick glance around, and thank the Emperor he did. He notices the shimmering visage of the final stalker charging up on him. He quickly turns and shoots it, blowing off both its right legs. Then he charges over to it at full speed, whipping out his knife at the perfect moment to slice the entire thing in half. Just then the shriekers draw close. Oxus uses his knife to cleave one out of the air. One more scratches his armor and another simply swoops over him. With his rifle, he kills the last 2 with 1 more hit. Oxus checks his area one more time. No sign of danger. Finally, he can let his guard down. He notices the sun piercing through as it begins to set. Oxus looks back at the stalker he just killed. Maybe he'll make good use of it. With a bit of downtime, he tore up its body, fashioning the stalker into a loincloth for his armor, using its tendons to hold it in place. He carries the remains of the stalker and the one who stole his knife along the way with him. He will have a new type of bug to try. But for now, he still has to trek across the desert until the stars show in the sky. He drops them and... Oh god, this part. He drops them and pumps his fist. It's like the Henry Cavill move. He drops them and pumps... Damn it. He drops them and pumps his fists as if ready to pump action shotgun. Oh, it's not even that funny.